It's almost time for the finals. This thought racked through Felix's head as he watched the battle between Kang, Jack, and Carlton Iocus, the clown struggling against the scarred warrior as he found his attacks continuously dodged and danced around. The heart's technique allowing him to fluidly and expediently twist and turn around whips of alcohol. Iocus's face was much more serious than previously, his attacks more aggressive in order to keep up with Jack, whose steel fist broke apart the clown's element, gradually making it harder to bend as he found himself having to gather the spattered remains of vodka from off the ground, a process that became harder and harder to accomplish with the persistent pressure. Soon enough, Carlton's seltzer bottle had only a third of its contents left. Jack's palms and knuckles cut, bruised and bloody from the constant deflections, but still raised and ready for more as the clown pulled his prop from his hip. A long moment passed as he looked at its contents, before he brought it to his lips and took a swig. And another, and then fell on his back, snoring. Huh? The Count came and went as victorious and confused Jack walked over and squatted near his fallen opponent, leaning close as he began to whisper. Is this alright with you, Carl? Working plan wasn't working. Sanguis artifacts don't make good drunks either. The clown kept his eyes shut as he talked, a relaxed look on his flushed face. I had a good run. Don't worry, I'll sober up and get back to the gym. Cook up something nice for you. Iocus shot Jack a toothy grin, getting a smile in return as the hearty man helped him to his feet and escorted him to the stands. Besides, even if I won, alcohol doesn't mix well with fire. With the semi-finals finished, a brief recess took place for the archetypes to rest and strategize before the final battle. The young man enjoying a drink with his friends and their coaches as they looked over the field. It's really happening, huh? The boy said in disbelief. You nervous, kid? Wouldn't you be? Haven't you been? What were you like when you first reached the finals? Felix asked, exasperated, Goldbug raising his hand in playful surrender. Easy. Well, it was a while ago, but I remember being a little shaky myself. Once I was in the fight, though, it was nothing but business. Wise words, sir? Might I ask how your battle went? Nemi asked. Oh, well... B had his ass handed to him, Kusai interjected. Hey! I believe it was the first time you and Mr. Shisha fought as well, correct? Gunzone asked. We had a few minor bouts before that, but yeah, Stan's never exactly been a teddy bear. Not very inspiring. Jesse dryly threw in, Felix pinching his nose while Remy grinned amused. Oh look, kid, I get you're stressed, but relax. You got this far, didn't you? 2 months ago, you were struggling to get a fire going. Now you're in the finals. Just go in with a solid strategy, fight like you've been fighting. All click together. Promise. The young man gave his mentor a soft smile before turning his attention to the field, biting his thumbnail as he made his plan of attack. Soon enough, the recess ended, and the two fighters were called to the field. At my side a vicious, cold-blooded man whose black heart screams at him to condemn the innocent and evil alike. A man who'd drown you if it meant he got a free hit. Felix, the Demon. I wonder if he's holding a grudge. And at my side B, his powerful opponent, with motions like water and skin like steel, a pure hand-to-hand man with form and technique bordering on mastery. Kang, the Heart! The crowd roared with excitement. Friends, family, and fans all shouting their support as the two men took their stances, an acknowledging smile shared between them. Ready, Felix? I hope you don't hold back on me. Couldn't really afford to if I wanted to, Jack. It's the final fight of the Greenhorn tournament, folks. Let it be one to remember. Ladies and gentlemen, the 15th match begins now. At the announcer's words, the bell rang and the referee separating the fighters faded out. The two warriors holding their positions a moment before making their moves. Felix struck first, foot dragging as he stepped into Jack's space, fire bursting out from its soul as the boy followed up with a similarly flame-spewing straight. With a back step and a lean back, the older fighter avoided both, quickly retaliating with a straight of his own. La Torres just managed to catch it in his guard. Jack's hardened flesh grinding against the searing arm. Without missing a beat, Kang there instantly shifted into a low kick, knocking the demon's legs back and tripping him forward, before snapping his legs back towards him, kneeing Felix's chin as the boy fell onto the floor and sunk into his shadow. Seeing this, Jack leapt back, eyes on the ground as he kept his distance from the darkness. Felix rose out, rubbing his chin while the older fighter nursed his arm, faint glow emitting beneath its skin. The two men slowly returned to their stances, distance presenting familiar problems, and thus garnering familiar solutions. With Felix beginning his steady march towards Kang, while flames bright and dark flew from his fist, a critical difference made itself readily apparent though. As with both feet left uninjured, Jack could properly run from the oncoming blaze, easily circling around the young man before making a dash for him. With little time and a fair bit of experience with speedsters, the demon whirled around in time to see the older fighter go for a roundhouse as he slid towards the boy. Felix raised his own leg into a knee check and turned it towards the attack, bone striking bone, causing both fighters to cry out and tumble to the ground. The damage to the boy's knee considerably less than Jack's shin. Not wasting time, Felix attempted to sink Kang into the darkness, the heart managing a quick escape with a springy one-handed push-up, rolling away before bouncing back into a flying kick, hissing in pain as his attack crashed into Torres' guard. Keeping up the pressure, Kang Jack pivoted into a roundhouse, the boy bobbing in time to dodge, only for Jack to deliver a staggering side kick into his chest immediately after landing. An exchange of blows ensued as the older fighter continued his offensive, a flurry of jabs, straights, and straight kicks met with a series of blocks, parries, and grapples, all burning at Jack's flesh, but never allowed more than a moment of contact before being ripped away for another attack. Noticing his opponent's preference in attack, the demon quickly formed a plan, gaining enough distance to be just outside of Kang's reach, attacks narrowly missing the boy as he worked to frustrate the older fighter into another leaping attack, hoping to catch him in the same trap he caught Drabagia in. He soon got his wish as Kang Jack pulled his leg into his chest and shot it towards Felix's, the demon making a half-hearted attempt at long guard before letting his body relax and still. The attack centimeters away. Then, a few feet back. Huh? Before the boy could process it, Jack's leg swiped at his face, the young man spiraling to the ground as the older fighter followed his momentum to a powerful, crouching sidekick, sending Felix rolling across the grass. It took a moment for the boy to halt his movement, looking up in time to find Kang chasing after him. No time to rise, Felix attempted to dive into his shadow, only for the older fighter to pluck him by his hood as he ran by, immediately flinging Torres out of his jacket and into the air. Whoa! Felix cried as he found himself flying through the air, a very new experience for him as nothing in the past 2 months had prepared him for it. His best strategy for it being the dive, a strategy in the midst of being stopped before it could begin. Jack ran just below the demon, gaze shifting between the young man and the field before him, waiting for the boy to descend. Shit. Need to move, or slow down, or something. Dad showed me an Ignis artifact to do something cool like that when I was a kid. Taking a deep breath, Felix turned his leg to his chest, and with a cry kicked the air in front of himself, a stream of fire blasting out before the demon. He flew right through it. No. The young man began to fall back to earth, Jack moving in front of his landing point, muscles tensing, ready to deliver a crushing blow to the boy. It was moments before impact. The demon left with only seconds to save himself, and in those seconds, an explosive idea emerged from desperation. Just before impact, Felix took a deep breath and clapped his hands together. Boom! An explosion erupted out, sending both fighters skidding across the ground, bodies smoking and clothes singed as they groggily pulled themselves up. Okay. Out the self. Don't do that. As the boy stood up, he looked to where his opponent was, a cloud of smoke and dust between them, veiling the older fighter's exact location. Should I just fire randomly? Felix began thinking as he cautiously moved towards the veil. No, felt likely I'll miss, but I figure out my location after a moment and rush me. Gotta take this one slow. As the young man moved through the smoke, he kept an ear out for any movement. Grass being crushed, a whistling wind, breathing, anything that might clue him to Jack's location. Then, he heard something whistle past his ear, followed by a splat. Huh? On instinct, the boy turned around to strike at whatever moved past him, striking only a fading smoke as Jack's foot flew into the back of his head, sending the boy to the ground. Down, but not out. Felix recovered into a sweep kick, a wave of fire racing through the grass and forcing Kang to jump, only to be knocked down by a blast of ebony flames. I still don't have any good idea of how I'm doing that, Felix thought, as Jack groaned in pain, clutching his chest to try and soothe the wound with his archetype. It's not moving, Jack thought. No, slower, not healing. Jack's mind wandered to Trubagia as he and Velatores recovered. The two shared an element and used it very similarly, including healing. His body was devastated by the unknown, with black flames. The two men rose to their feet carefully, the blows to the head and pain accumulated by Felix and Jack respectively, beginning to get the fighters as they took their stances once more. A stillness fell between the two, eyes focused as they waited for the other to make the first move, while they still ran through counters in their heads. Slowly, they began to circle each other, tension thick in the air, their bodies tense and breathing heavy and deliberate. But inevitably, one did move. In a snap, Kang Jack threw his fist at Felix, the demon managing a long guard before wrapping his arm around his older opponent's flesh, beginning to heat up until Jack threw his other fist onto the boy's gut, knocking the wind out of him. Though gasping for breath, Velatores gripped through the pain and hit the heart with a cross across the face. Other arms still wrapped around Jack's as he pulled him in and braced him against the attack. A sharp breath later, Felix's body was burning against Kang's, the older warrior groaning in pain before rearing his head back and knocking Felix down with a headbutt. Rolling back into a crouch, the demon retaliated with a blast of fire, the heart dodging with a roll of his own, moving to the boy's side before leaping out with a straight punch. A hard-knuckled bullet connected with his face. Felix, barely catching himself, used the momentum to heel-kick Jack into the ground with him, clutching his head as the room began to spin. Need to end this. Getting to one knee, Felix attempted to throw another fireball out as Jack rose, the older fighter hopping to the outside of it as the boy collapsed back to the ground. Not giving up, Felix took quick, shallow breaths before rolling to face Kang, an axe kick in tow that sent a blade of fire rushing out, the heart turning his body to the side, narrowly avoiding the attack before retaliating. With the turn setting him up, Kang Jack shot his fist out towards Felix, the young man using his opponent's same dodge to avoid it while putting up his elbow, letting Jack's face crash into it. As the scarred fighter cried out in pain, the demon breathlessly threw his palm into Kang's chest, a burst of black fire sending him rolling back, both warriors scrambling to their feet, hoping to get an attack out before their opponent, their bodies reaching their limits as they moved for one last attack. In the end, it was the demon that stood first. With a deep, gasping breath and a heartfelt cry, Felix threw both of his fists out, a great bright blaze roaring to life as Jack got to his feet. Light filling the older fighter's vision as the flames shot out, engulfing everything in their path before crashing into the field wall in a fire explosion. The boy stood there a moment, breathing heavily as his arms fell to his side. The ground in front of him burnt black, all the way to the soot on the wall. Did I Jack! The boy hoarsely cried out, a quick scan of his surroundings giving him his friend's location. To the side of the trail of destruction, standing just outside his vision. Standing. Oh. Oh, that's... Before he could finish, Felix Velatorez fell forward onto the ground, pain and exhaustion overwhelming him as he faded out of consciousness. Sometime later, the boy's eyes fluttered open, his head groggy as he was surrounded by his friends, coach, and medical staff, a soothing feeling enveloping his body. Guys. Felix slowly sat up, aided by Goldberg as he felt a measure of strength return to his body. He began taking in his surroundings, the green of the field, the rumbling of the audiences, and then the realization set in. Silence filled the space between the group, a disappointed look shaping over the boy's face as his mentor gripped his shoulder. You fought well, kid. You fought damn well. The veteran Archetype gave his student a reassuring smile, his friends doing the same as the bittersweet sensation built in Felix's heart. He'd made it in the finals. And he lost. Oh. Where's Jack? Over here. The young man turned towards the voice, finding King Jack surrounded by his own medical team. Sorry I can't be over there to help. You're healing, Felix. It's just a burnt leg. It's a bit much to heal on my own. Burnt leg? Wait. You were standing when I passed out, right? You did that with a burnt leg? It was certainly staggering. I thought I might pass out before you. Barely managed long enough for the count. After that, it would seem I followed you into unconsciousness. That's... wow. It's just the stubbornness of an old man. You were quite the opponent, Felix. I'm grateful we got to fight in the finals. The older fighter bowed to the younger, a widening smile on the boy's face as he returned the gesture of respect. I'm grateful as well, and I'd like to fight you again someday. Soon enough, the two men were healed and able to move on their own. Felix's group returning to the benches while Jack remained on the field, the stadium roaring as the man stood for commendation. Our champion, ladies and gentlemen, the strongest of Kafab's new generation of fighters, King Jack the Heart! The audience and the fighters washed the field in praise. The announcer held up Jack's arm, a big smile on his scarred face, deep breaths seeming to hold back deeper tears as he stood as tournament champion. The announcer putting his hands up to hush the crowd before continuing. Or rather, the second strongest. All at once, confusion flooded the arena, Jack giving a particularly indignant look as the announcer stepped back. You see, Jack, during our recess, I got it on good authority that you were in fact not the man with the most points in the exhibition match. A feeling of trepidation fell upon Kang as the realization clicked for him. That man. You mean... Would you like to meet him? 'Cause he's dying to meet you. Come on out, Jojo! The announcer pointed toward one of the field entrants, fog billowing from its mouth as a new fighter stepped onto the battlefield.